In today's tutorial, let's do the Warm C2C Shawl. This is a really quite an easy shawl featuring Caron Cakes. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to be using Caron Cakes to make the Warm C2C Shawl. C2C means corner to corner, and this is a really quite easy pattern. You need 2 balls of Caron Cakes in order to make it. Now you'll see the beautiful color transitions that we have. In the particular model sample I use a lilac frosting, and in today's example we are having the blueberry cheesecake just like you see, but the actual tutorial format today will be using the fairy yarn. So and that's also part of the Caron Cake, so it's called fairy. So you're going to be noticing that there's beautiful transitions of color here. I want to give you some tips in order to play with those colors because I doctored it. When I say by doctored, it means that I kind of changed up something and I was really paying attention to the end color of these cakes, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. So here is 2 Caron Cakes that I would use if I was to do the shawl in this color. That's all you need to do a whole size shawl. So the shawl is 62 inches I believe by 25 inches deep. It's really quite a nice shawl, and you'll end up with 54 clusters along the top, and I'll explain that in the end. But what's gonna happen is that you're gonna start off in the center right here, and you're going to get and just start so that you have the, and what I did is that I just keep on going until the colors naturally come out of this yarn. So you're gonna notice that it's just gonna keep feeding, but where I want to watch for is the very final color that's on a ball. So let's say this is ball 2, this is ball number 1. So as it gets bigger, and you can only see that there's one little layer here of this color before it changes to something else, okay, because there's nothing else to go to. So I can trust that all the yarn that's in here, the middle may be a difference, there may not be a really big distance here, but because it's the point it's not a big deal. But right when the outside you may not have the full color. So do you see all of that same color is right here? See all of that yarn? See, it's not very much yarn here on the outside. So here in the next one you can see that it's in a different order because of the way that it's wound. So then you can see that that color on the outside here appears here, and it also appears here. So what I did is that when I did this is that I realized that this color is not long enough in order to complete what a row. So I might end up with a half row or a row that just looks out of place. So what I would do if I were you is that before you get to this color, just stop the yarn and cut it and just ball this up and leave it aside. Then when you go to ball number 2, just make sure that the first color here there's enough yarn there. If not, what I want you to do is just pull it out and just cut that out of the ball. It's not gonna be wasted. Listen. So what's gonna happen is that when you get to this color here, okay, what you're gonna do is that you're gonna cut the yarn and you're gonna finish using this color right here from this ball. So finish that and then bring this color back. So if you had to cut this one out here because it wasn't long enough, this darker blue, cut it out and then use it when it appears again in the ball, which is right here on the outside. So this is a great way to not be able to waste any yarn and being able to doctor the colors in the sense that you're purposely making it fall where you want it to and not necessarily when it's gonna fall naturally. The biggest mistake I would do with this is that this dark color is such an obvious color that if you only had a portion of that color here, you will end up with a line that goes halfway across your afghan and it will stick out like a sore thumb. So you really want to kind of watch for these colors. Now this here, do you see all the distance, this yarn here? Now you saw that it transitions right here and there's the color. All of that same amount of yarn is in here, okay, before it changed to the last color here. Okay, so you got to trust in that. So every time you see that, so this amount of yarn here is the same amount that you see here. So the only difference is that when it goes to corner, if you have to doctor it, you just have to look and match the colors and just stop it and start. And I will show you that in the sample as well. And that's I've also mentioned it in the actual write-up as well. So without further ado, let's grab your 5.5 millimeter size eye crochet hook. Only need 2 balls today, and I'll show you how to do this quick and easy pattern. So we're gonna be starting on the back of the shawl, right at the very base, right above the buttocks area. That's the point. And so what's gonna happen is that it's gonna start off and then it's gonna get bigger as a triangle, like a corner to corner. It's very similar to corner to corner, but it is not the same. It's requiring clusters and not conventional corner to corner. You will use your, less yarn this way because of cluster work, and it's actually really quite fabulous. So let's begin. We're going to start off with a little bit of a longer tail here so that you can use a darning needle to hide that in at the end because it's right at the base. You want the base to be beautiful. Start off with a slip knot and remember that it never counts as 1. So to start this you need to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and let's begin row number 1. So row number 1, we're gonna establish the first cluster, and this right where this tail is the base of the shawl. It's the very back point. So right in the very 5th chain, which is the starting one, I want you to do a cluster. So to do a cluster, we're gonna yarn over like this, and we're gonna go into that first chain like that. Yarning over, pulling through, and then yarning over and pulling 2, and hold the rest of it on the hook. Do not go any further with that. So let's do another one of those into that same chain. So yarning over into that first chain, pull through 2, and hold, and do it one more time. So yarning over, going into the same one, pulling it through, pull through 2, and hold. You now have 4 loops on your hook. So now you're gonna yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and now you're just gonna be done, because the fact is that there's no more blocks. So to finish a row, in every time you finish a row, regardless if it's this one or all the rest of them, you're always going to chain 2 and then double crochet back into that same space where the rest of the clusters are, and just double crochet. And that's row number 1. So that's what it appears like at this point. It looks like it's gonna be off center, but it's not. You gotta trust into it. So turn our work and let's go for row number 2. So every row always starts off the same from this point forward. So we're always gonna start off by chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And coming into the same chain space, I want you to do another cluster. So yarning over, going into that same space, pull through 2, and hold. Yarning over, going into the same space, pull through 2, and hold. Do it one more time. So you always do it 3 times, just like that. You have 4 loops on your hook, yarning over and pulling through all 4. So because this one is not on the edge, okay, they're always gonna be the same way in the middle between the edges. So you're just gonna chain 1 first to lock it, and then you look for the next chain space, which is right here, and you single crochet and you build another cluster. So to start another cluster is always gonna be chaining a 3. Okay, when it's in the middle, it's only in the end that it's chain 4, and then we just cluster into that same space. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit, so you just do your cluster work. Okay, there's your 4 loops on the hook, yarning over, pulling it through. So because this is the last block on here, the last one will always be chaining 2 and then double crocheting into that same space. That's how you finish. So let's turn our work and let's do another row. I'm gonna show you 2 more rows just to make sure you got it. So always starting a row is chaining of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Coming into the same space right here, okay, you're going to cluster. Okay, so you're getting your loops on there. This goes really quick. Okay, and then pull through all 4 loops and lock it with a chain 1 and reach for the next chain space and single crochet in there, and let's build another cluster. So it's always gonna be 3, chaining a 3, and then cluster into that same space. So for those that are familiar with corner to corner concept, you see it's very similar, and the only difference is that we're doing clusters instead. So pulling it through, lock it with a chain 1, and then come to the next chain space, which happens to be the last one of this row. So single crochet, let's build 1. So we're gonna chain 3 next, and then coming into the same space for another cluster. So what are we gonna do? It's the very last one of the row. So in order to do it, pull through all 4, chain 2. That's the difference of that row, and then double crochet right into the same one. So you're noticing that a triangle formation is now happening. Let's turn our work and go for row number 4. So all the rows are the same. So for this particular example that you need 54 of these clusters going across, currently there's 3. 1, 2, and 3. So let's start again, chaining a 4 and cluster into that space right underneath. Okay, I'm gonna speed up. Then pulling through all 4 loops, lock it with a chain 1, then come into the next space, single crochet first, then chain 3, and then cluster into that same space. So every time you're doing this, it just gets bigger and bigger for you, right? It's kind of a neat process that way. So let's continue. So lock it, chain 1, come to the next chain space, single crochet, build up another one, chain 3 to start, and then cluster. Just like that. pull through all 4 loops, lock it with a chain 1, and then come to the very final one here, single crochet first, chain 3, and then cluster. Now this is the last one of this row, so what do you gotta do? Do you remember? Okay, you got your 4 loops, pull through, and then lock it. So you're gonna go 1 and 2, so chain 2 after that, and double crochet back into that same space. So you're gonna notice that this will get wider and wider, and with the Caron Cakes it'll change colors on its own. And just remember the doctoring of colors in order to get things to look consistent, and this will look absolutely amazing each and every time. So until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as the crochetcrowd.com. We'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.